There are millions of people that are currently taking a GLP-1 medication or an antidepressant, and many of them are also drinking. Very few of them have been told what's actually happening inside their bodies when they do. And that's what today is all about. Now, ironically, I want to share that there are a lot of GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound that have shown to actually reduce alcohol cravings in some people. And there are some studies that also show up to a 50% reduction in alcohol-related events among people taking these medications. So why is this episode necessary then if GLP-1s might actually help with drinking? Well, because the people who are still drinking on these meds are often walking into territory that they didn't even know existed. And it's important for me to share this information with you. And then if you add antidepressants to that picture, the stakes go up considerably. That's why we're doing this episode today. So welcome in. If you are on a GLP-1 medication or an antidepressant, this episode is for you. Welcome to Beyond the Gray, the podcast about gray area drinking and how it impacts your health, relationships, purpose, and faith. This is where we have real conversations about the topics successful men over 50 don't usually talk about out loud. If you've built a great life but keep asking, is this it? You're not alone. When alcohol becomes your go-to off switch and your marriage, health, or purpose feel disconnected, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kari Schwear, and this, my friend, is where the gray ends. Welcome back to Beyond the Gray. I'm very excited that you are here, and I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of my viewers and supporters of the show, because without you, I wouldn't be here. This is episode 20, and while it might not seem like a huge number, it is truly a milestone, and I'm very, very happy because it's real conversations like this, what we're going to be talking about today, that are so important, and it's what you are paying attention to. So thank you for being here, because the show wouldn't exist without you. So thank you. You know, today's topic came directly from what I'm seeing in my own circle with my friends as well as my clients. The GLP-1 medications are everywhere right now. I know if you're not currently taking them, you know at least one or two people that are. So whether it's tirzepatide, which is known as Mounjaro or Zepbound, or semaglutide, which is known as Ozempic or Wegovy, and there are newer ones that are coming down the pipeline as well. One is called retatrutide. That is still in this experiment phase, and of course, we're waiting for a pharmaceutical company to get their hands on it so they can jack the price, and you know the rest. But I'm not here to pass judgment on pharmaceutical companies, although I do have my opinions. Anyway, we'll talk about that down the road. But I do want to share that I've had multiple conversations with many people about this, and a lot of them are drinking, and nobody, and not even their doctor, has been sharing with them exactly what can happen if they're choosing to drink. And listen, I worked in a medical office for years, about 10 years, and I will tell you that a lot of patients, including myself when I was drinking, would never tell the doctor the truth. So how much are you drinking? Oh, you know, just occasionally, one here and there. When the truth was, it was at least 2 glasses every single night. So if that's you, pay attention, because this episode is directed for you and for you, because I want you to understand what is truly happening. Now, everything that I am sharing today, I want to be very transparent about, that this is coming from published research and reputable medical sources. And I will reference all of these sources that I got this information from in the show notes. And you can read them for yourself, because I want you to understand that this isn't my own opinion. This is information that I found through my own research. And as I said, I was in the medical field for about 10 years. But I'm a coach. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not your doctor. And I also want to share that I personally was on tirzepatide, which I got through my doctor. I wasn't on it very long. And the reason why my doctor wanted to put me on it wasn't necessarily for weight loss. It was for the fact that my blood sugar was a little high. I wasn't pre-diabetic, but I was heading towards the pre-diabetic marker. And he said, let's just try it for a little bit. And then I decided to get off of it for my own personal reasons. And this episode truly, truly is for educational purposes only. So if any of what I'm going to be sharing with you raises any sort of question for you about your own health or your own medications, please take those questions to your physician. And what I want to do today is to give you that information so it will help you have a more informed conversation with your doctor when you do talk to him. Because the conversation has to start somewhere. And most people don't even know what to ask. So I'm hoping that this episode is going to provide some of that information for you so you feel more informed about your own health. So if you're new to GLP-1s and you're wondering, what is it? It stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. Now, these medications, they mimic a hormone in your gut that naturally is produced. And how they work is they slow down how fast your stomach empties. They help to regulate blood sugar. They help to reduce appetite. And like I said, some of the common names that you've probably seen on TV and commercials is Ozempic and Wegovy, which is semaglutide, and also Mounjaro and Zepbound, which is tirzepatide. Now, originally, these medications were developed for type 2 diabetes. Now it's widely prescribed for weight loss, and it's working. But there are some caveats to this, and one of them is when a lot of the patients that are on these medications are now losing a lot of muscle mass. You need to be very careful with this. So if you currently are on one of these medications, please be sure that you are doing some sort of weight-bearing exercises if you can, and taking care of your muscles and your bone health. Very, very important. So with millions of Americans on these medications, I felt very compelled to do this episode today. Now, what is so crazy, and I alluded to this in the beginning, that there have been a lot of studies showing that these GLP-1 medications may significantly reduce alcohol cravings, which is really great news. And then there was a 2024 study that was done over 682,000 individuals, found that the risk of new alcohol use disorder diagnoses were down about 50% among those who were taking semaglutide, which that is wonderful news. Those are all really great things. And they also have found that GLP-1 medications can slow the rate of which alcohol enters the bloodstream. But there's a flip side to that, so stay with me. This slows the rise in breath alcohol and also can help reduce how intoxicated people feel. But again, there's a flip side to all this. How this all came to be is Reddit first flagged this connection, that there was users on semaglutide that started posting that they simply didn't want to drink anymore. So researchers noticed, and of course the studies followed. And here's the honest framing for a lot of this, that some people, and please let me emphasize the word some here, that GLP-1s may naturally reduce the pull towards alcohol. But for people who are still drinking on these medications, there are real risks that are not being talked about. And that's why I wanted to do this episode. So I'm going to share 6 risks with you that I want you to be aware of if you are on one of these medications and electing to still drink alcohol. Number 1 is that you may get drunk faster and feel it longer. Now, I know I just read that one of the benefits may be the opposite of that, but everyone is different. You are going to process alcohol differently than somebody else. And it was only some people, not all people. So you need to be careful. Why this happens is because the medication slows the gastric emptying in your body, and alcohol moves through your system much more differently. This is why you need to be aware. And people have reported feeling the effects of alcohol much more quickly and more intensely than they used to. So if your old tolerance was maybe 2 glasses of wine, and now you're finding just after 1, you're getting this massive buzz, pay attention, because your old tolerance may no longer apply here. So you need to be aware. Risk number 2 is your blood sugar can drop dangerously low. GLP-1 medications lower blood sugar. Alcohol also lowers blood sugar. So when you combine them, you're working against your body from 2 directions at once. Please be aware. Alcohol impairs the liver's ability to release glucose back into the blood, and this can result in hypoglycemia, which is dizziness, shakiness, confusion, and even fainting. This is especially true if you're also taking insulin or if you're on any other diabetes medication. Risk number 3 hits home for me, and I'll tell you why in a second here. I'm talking about pancreatitis risk increases. Both heavy alcohol use and GLP-1 medications have independently been associated with pancreatitis. Now, it is the inflammation of the pancreas, if you've not heard of it, is very painful and is very serious. Ironically, when I was taking tirzepatide, I had my labs done, and guess what was very high? My pancreas. So that was enough to scare me to get off of the medication, and I was not drinking. So it is very important for you to understand that some of these risks can occur. Everybody's body is different, but you do need to be aware. And the scary thing about the pancreas is that it is a silent killer. You've probably heard that before. So if you are electing to be on one of these GLP-1 medications, please make sure that you're getting your labs done periodically, or regularly, I should say, and ask that your pancreas levels are checked. All right, risk number 4. Your medication may not work the way that it should. Well, alcohol adds empty calories and it increases your appetite. You ever notice that? When you're at a party, you tend to eat a little bit more because you got a drink in your hand, and why not? Well, it undermines the very things that the GLP-1 medications are trying to do. So guess what happens? Your weight loss stalls and your blood sugar control suffers. The progress starts to reverse. And isn't the whole point of you being on a GLP-1 that you actually are making progress? So you need to be careful with that. Alcohol is just empty calories, as you know. Risk number 5 is a serious one. It is dehydration, and it compounds everything. So a GLP-1 side effect like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea already carry a dehydration risk. Alcohol is also dehydrating. And when you combine those two, it can hit much harder for you. So if you're not already, again, talk with your doctor, but you might want to consider adding in an electrolyte to your daily consumption of water. Risk number 6, your liver is being asked to do too much at once. I want you to think about it. You're taking a medication and you're drinking. Your body is saying, what am I supposed to do with both these things? So you're overstimulating your liver. It doesn't know what to prioritize. And when you are on both of these, you can have glucose release failure. It is something that is very serious and something for you to consider. Now, I want to shift to something that gets even less attention that has been around much longer than GLP-1 medications, and that is antidepressants. They have been rising for years. When I was in the medical practice, I will tell you almost, I don't want to say every patient, that would be a little too far-fetched, but a majority of patients that we saw were on antidepressants, and they had been for several years. A significant percentage of adults in midlife are taking some sort of antidepressant, and many of them are also drinking. Have you ever noticed too, if you're on an antidepressant yourself, and if your doctor has asked, are you drinking alcohol? Have you been really honest about it? Because what I have found is that many people like me who would never tell exactly the full truth, how much are you currently drinking? What does your alcohol consumption look like in a week? And I would say, just a glass here and there, a couple a week. When more, it was like a couple every night. We need to be honest here. If you're drinking along with an antidepressant, and if you also are adding a GLP-1 in there, this is something you need to be very careful about, because I've seen this combination come up for many, many people. The pattern is always the same, that when people are using alcohol and on the antidepressants, they think of it as two different things, but it's not. Because guess what? Alcohol is a depressant. And when you're taking an antidepressant, they combat each other. There's this paradoxical thing that happens. They're not separate. They need to be in conversation with your doctor because they're in conversation with themselves inside your body every time that you choose to drink. Let me share with you the different types of antidepressants that are out there. And you most likely, if you are on one, are on a SSRI or an SNRI. So the SSRIs, that stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And some examples of that is Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, Celexa, and Paxil. And most commonly are the ones that are prescribed by physicians. Alcohol can reduce the medication's effectiveness and, wait for it, worsen the mood swings. And this can intensify drowsiness. It's important for you to be honest with your doctor on how much alcohol you are currently drinking. The other type that I'm going to share is serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, or the SNRI is what they're known for. And some of those examples is Effexor and Cymbalta. Now, when you mix this with alcohol, it raises the risk of high blood pressure, it puts tremendous strain on the liver, and can elevate your anxiety. This is not uncommon. You want to know why? Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. You are literally working against the medication every time you drink. And the first 4 to 6 weeks on a new antidepressant are so critical. This is the window that your brain is recalibrating. So drinking during this window muddies the water so completely that you may not even know if the medication is working effectively or not. Now, this isn't just about efficacy. It's about what it does to you emotionally. Alcohol can worsen the depression and anxiety symptoms. The medication may be trying to lift you, and the alcohol keeps pulling you back under. Many people don't make the connection because it feels so gradual over time. Judgment, coordination, and reaction time are all more impaired when you combine antidepressants with alcohol than when you drink alone. You know, I've worked with multiple clients who've been on antidepressants and still drinking. And in most every single case, they came to me wondering why they still feel stuck, why the medication doesn't seem to be working the way that they hope, why their anxiety was still through the roof. They were treating two things as though they were existing in separate compartments, the body and the mind, medication and habit. But the body doesn't work in compartments. So when we start to look at the alcohol, everything else starts to make more sense. So we have to remove that first. And here's why this conversation is so important. Gray area drinking is not drinking to black out. It's not waking up on the floor. It's not losing your job. It's having 2 to 4 drinks most nights and think that it's fine. It's the wine dinner that's becoming non-negotiable. It's the person who hasn't asked themselves yet, what is this actually doing to me? And you know what? GLP-1s and antidepressants don't change that question. They actually make it more urgent. Because here's what's happening in real life right now for you. Someone starts a GLP-1 to lose weight or manage blood sugar, and they keep the drinking the way that they always have. Their body is now responding to alcohol differently. They chalk it up to being tired or stressed, or they're on this new medication. They've never connected it to the medication itself. Or someone starts an antidepressant to get through a hard season, and yet they keep drinking the way they always have. And they wonder why they still feel low, still feel anxious. The medication is never able to do its job. They think that the medication is starting to fail them. This is exactly the type of conversation that doesn't happen in a 15-minute doctor appointment. I'm just saying, it just doesn't. And this is exactly why a coach can sit with you and say, let's look at the entire picture. It's rarely just one thing. It's a multitude of things. and you need somebody that's going to sit down and partner with you to walk through it. So now that you have all this information, what do you do with it all? Well, the first thing that I would love for you to do is start by having an honest conversation with your doctor about your drinking, and be honest. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people, including myself, have underreported when you're asked about how much you are drinking. Your doctor can't help you if you don't tell them what's really going on. And if you're on a GLP-1 and you drink, pay attention to how your body is responding. Is alcohol hitting harder than it used to? Are you feeling nauseated or unwell after amounts that never bothered you before? That's your body trying to tell you something. And if you're on an antidepressant and it doesn't seem to be working, look at the full picture. Pull back and see the whole thing. How often are you drinking? Is the drinking happening during a window when the medication is trying to recalibrate? You don't have to have this all figured out today, but you do have to start asking the right questions. And if you want support doing that, that's exactly what coaching is for. I said at the top that very few people are talking about this, and that's true. And there's a reason. Because most of these conversations require someone to admit that they're drinking more than they should, or that the medication that they're on hasn't fixed what they'd hope it would fix. Those are vulnerable places to be, but that's where real change starts. Not in denial, but in information and in honesty. If this episode landed for you, I want you to do one thing. Share it with someone who might need to hear it too, because they may not know that they need to hear it unless you share it with them. All the research that I referenced today will be linked in the show notes below. I invite you to take a look, do your own reading, and then take your questions to your doctor. Because you know what? You deserve to have the full picture and the real picture, and not just think that if you ignore it, it's going to stay in the gray. Because here's the deal. You have the information and you can see your life clearly. And that, my friend, is life beyond the gray. Thank you for watching and being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.